Warriors, the United States now hosts more child sexual abuse material, CSAM, than any other country in the entire world. How can this be? I am up in arms, especially today. And I want to share all of this information with you. I'm going to start the video a little different. I have no shame, and I am going to say, please donate to Lynn's Warriors. The website is lynswarriors.org. I am working very hard in rolling out my educational program for schools and also for supporting survivors. I need all of you. I cannot do this alone. We must all come together. This is an American crisis. First of all, June is PTSD Awareness Month, and that would be Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder Awareness Month. It's also Internet Safety Month. Both of those things, what do they have in common? How do they intersect? PTSD and internet safety. Well, let me give you a couple of different facts. Our children are being so deluged, as you know, warriors, with online materials, whether it is constant advertising, unsolicited cyberbullying from friends, unwanted, sexual images and dialogue, and predators that are on every single platform you and I and the kids are on. But let's focus with the kids right now. On top of all of this, so many people in the last week, I will say, have been reporting to me how they are really upset. And who could blame anybody with such upheaval going on in our country right now? But I want to tie this all together. And parents and concerned citizens, family members asking me, what should we do? You know, the kids, I'm angry, warriors, because New York City announced its $101 billion budget. Yet it erased $100 million from the education system. However, they could find money to sponsor, as it's come to light recently, Drag Queen Story Hour, and presenting to children as young as 3 in the New York City public schools. Now, warriors, I don't care what any adults do whatever you may want, but leave our kids out of it. Also, many parents reported they are up in arms because these presentations were made and they were never made aware of them. So therein lies the problem, warriors. Do what you want as adults, leave the kids out of it. So I'm up in arms about that, cutting $100 million. I scanned, today is my radio program day, so I was up early scanning news articles, and the budget cuts had something to do, and I'll go back, of course, and research, and I urge all of you to go and research on your own as well, with the cuts were made to schools where, based on enrollment, and that since COVID, it is reported 41% of kids in New York City public schools just never came back. If they reported 41%, the percentage is higher. So for argument's sake, let's say 50%. Where are all the children? Shouldn't we, instead of cutting the budgets to public school education, be spending the time and resources, perhaps, on finding these children? If they are admitting 41%, I mean, this is shocking. So the kids are in a constant state of turmoil, being deluged with whether it's drag queens, whether it's something, that's real time, whether it's online, whether it's the entertainment landscape, the media, the music, it is all around them. And then on top of it, LA Pride. And, this is a family program, but look at the past Disney darling, Christina Aguilera. Do you remember her, everybody? She was on the Mickey Mouse Club, the new Mickey Mouse Club, years ago, put on such a performance to it was billed as a family friendly event. Okay. To get into this venue during LA Pride, they had directions, no umbrellas, no backpacks, no food, no drinks. But what she displayed on stage, there was not a warning for parents about this. I'm no prude, warriors. I started my career in the music business and worked many years in entertainment. None of us have ever seen anything like this. I had as my guest today on my radio program, Dr. John Fobert. Dr. John Fobert is one of the foremost experts on pornography, the science of it, how it affects relationships, society as a whole, but he especially, and this is why I had him on, how it especially affects our children. And he wrote a terrific new book, Protecting Your Children from Internet Pornography, Understanding the Science, Risks, and Ways to Protect Your Kids. Because warriors, this is not naked pictures. This is graphic violence. This is how boys are learning to treat girls. I posted something on my Twitter, that an article, I did it yesterday at Lynn's Warriors. Many girls, their mothers, their parents are bringing them to emergency rooms because they're showing up, they've been choked. Their first sexual experience is being choked out, because the boys are seeing this on the internet. And the pornography today is just, the best way I can explain this, warriors, is that it dehumanizes individuals. And so this is what our young children, our tweens, our teens are seeing and replicating. So this is all part of that agenda, this normalization of the sexualization of our children. But what I love about Dr. Faubert's book is that after each chapter, he gives take actions, and ways you should speak with the kids. So the work is all done for you, because let's face it, these are uncomfortable, horrible subject matters. Who wants to be talking to kids about this stuff? Warriors, I urge you, we have to in 2022. Full court press. I know you all know it, what's going on in this country and beyond. So the book, again, is Protecting Your Children from Internet Pornography, Understanding the Science, Risks, and Ways to Protect Your Kids, available at all bookstores. Always on Amazon, I recommend. At the Warriors, we always do. We promote small businesses. If they do not have it in independent bookstore, they can certainly order that for you. But it is time. We have to have the conversation about today's pornography. And we also know that when we talk about pornography, the kids have easy access to it. The algorithms direct them towards it, actually. And even if they didn't, the kids can find it. I heard from a bunch of, 7th and 8th graders. They said, they told me two things. They told me that easy access to porn, oh yeah, we all do it, girls and boys. And they also told me they routinely exchange, the majority of them, naked images of themselves. They're just growing up in this world where this is okay. Well, it's not okay. These are actually crimes. And again, it's the further dehumanizing, the further normalization of the sexualization of our children. So I urge you, warriors, I'm going to put that interview up. I do these YouTubes late at night. I'll be putting that interview up tomorrow morning. And I want all of you to listen to Dr. Faubert, because he truly is one of the foremost authorities who advises for the United States Army, and has certainly testified before Congress. He has been giving information to the past White House, I should say. And it's from a scientific point of view, these little developing brains, how this is corroding them. And I've had it, I was also invited this week to a couple of different things in Washington, D.C., to come and work on a couple of things and participate. And you know what, warriors, for the first time, I am needed in New York State. I am needed around New Jersey and Connecticut, boots on the ground, community. What do I always preach? The community creates change. I decided I'm not going to Washington. You know why, warriors? And this is just for this week, the way I'm thinking. Where legislation goes to die, yes, warriors, I'm saying it to you. Where dreams go to die, but let's stick to the warriors' work and trafficking and exploitation. There is so much noise, so many things happening. Very few things are getting done. In the meantime, more people are being abused, more children are being trafficked. And we have to remember, an image online, a dialogue online is a form of human trafficking, something that is moving. It is not always, the white van. It is the definition is the use of force, thrust, or coercion. So if somebody is coerced online, innocently, it starts, they send one image, they think it's another child, could be a friend or a family member. Then they say, send this type of image, they up it. And if the child or teen says no, then the coercion starts, the forcing starts, and this is all human trafficking. So warriors, I can't, urge you enough to get on top of this with your kids. Start communicating, start figuring out a way. We are all in this together, how you are going to talk to your children, because there is very little, next to none, government health. I just got off of, and it was done by Zoom, a meeting with the Queens DA office. Now, let me explain. Queens, New York, formed a little over 2 years ago, the first human trafficking bureau. And this was a very informative kind of insider talk about what specifically is happening in Queens, New York, a big hub. We have 2 major airports there, a lot of hotels all around the airports, the landscape into Manhattan, what needs to be done. And I was actually encouraged. This was a good group of people. And something that I'm loving, store owners are beginning to step up to create, this is a safe haven. Because remember, if it's in real time and somebody's trafficked, they don't realize they're a victim. They don't even realize it's being done to them. They don't identify as a victim. They're scared, especially, can you imagine a teenage girl or boy? But if we had stores that were created as, and it's happening, which I love, a safe haven that a kid could escape to, then this would at least be something in the positive direction, something happening to protect our children, because they are inundated and there's going to be no hope for them as our future adults, as our future parents, our future citizens of keeping our country going. Also another reason I think I'm angry at Washington, well, there's a lot of reasons to be angry at Washington, is our Department of State, our Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken, constantly when he's writing memos is referring to sex work or referring to children as prostitutes. Children cannot consent, therefore they are not prostitutes. They cannot be prostitutes. Let's call it what it is. They are victims. They are child rape victims. There you have it, warriors. And despite the hundreds of people coming together, the organizations writing, whether it's the White House, whether it's the Department of State, to not use this language, survivors of human trafficking who have so bravely come forward to help us. I've never been trafficked, but to help somebody like me so I can do my work better, understand indicators, understand how they, got into this trafficking, from their perspective, what needs to be done, and that our government would continue to use that phrase, sex worker. Sex is not work. Work is not sex. This is force, fraud, coercion. I guarantee you, warriors, there's a pimp or trafficker behind the scenes. Nobody's working on their own, making all this money. And warriors, it is our most vulnerable. We are not talking about, high class escorts, whatever you want to call them. We know, studies show different studies from 90% to 97% that anybody in the sex trade has a pimp or a trafficker behind them. So I'm very angry that our government is calling children prostitutes. I'm very angry that they continue. We just sent out our third letter to the Department of State to use that term, sex worker. These are vulnerable. Most of the people in this trade are the vulnerable ones, are the ones caught in it, because the predators and the traffickers, it's very easy to manipulate a very vulnerable person. So who's the most vulnerable among us? The children. The demand is for children. I just sat through 4 FBI videos, and a couple of them were these girls. As simple as there's a lot of teenage angst. I'm talking girls are maybe 13, 14. And one video was a woman befriending an older teen, I'll say, young woman befriending this girl. And she thought she was really nice. It started out, they're friends, and I'll take you to a diner. And a month later, everything was nice for about a month. And this is called grooming. And this is the technique that is almost always used. Took her to some hotel and introduced her to a man. And the man said, if you want to get into the modeling business, because you're so beautiful, and what girl, most girls say yes at that age, I want to be a model. I'm going to have to take some photos of you in these positions, with these men, and they go along and do it. So we have to do a much better job of educating our youth that none of this is appropriate. This is human trafficking. This is sexual exploitation. It's our job, which is why I'm so angry at the New York City schools for cutting funding when I've been railing for digital safety. I don't even call it human trafficking. I call it digital safety classes, okay? Nothing from nothing, okay? Our children are the product. They're after our children. There is definitely a war on for our children. So we have all that going on. And I want to also share, the other thing that kind of poisoned me a little bit today, and I'm always a positive person, is when I heard the National Parents Association, NPA, always has been part of the White House, a council. They're being shelved, that some subdivision has formed, and it's a certain agenda, and that agenda is trans. That agenda is, you can tell a third grader, okay, feel like a boy or a girl today. They're just doing what they want. I don't know who's behind all of this. It is a total disruption of society, of family, but our most innocent, our beautiful, precious children are being targeted, are the product. So it's up to you as the parent, grandparent, caregiver to please, I'm begging you to step in, to protect your children at home, to find out what they're doing online. You pay for those devices, you pay for the internet, I'm sure. Start talking to your kids. This is not, they're growing up in a world where they think this is okay, and it's not okay. Have an action plan in place. Always go to linswarriors.org. Look at all the information there. Also, you can always reach out to me, Lynn at linswarriors.org, with any questions or comments. I need all of you to join me. And let me leave you with a couple of things. Please, I sent out, I do it on a weekly basis, a newsletter, and you can sign up for that, linswarriors.org. Scroll down the right side, e-newsletter, sign up. I usually send it out Tuesdays or Wednesdays, and I resend it a couple of days later for those who haven't opened it. So you still have time. I'll be sending that out again in 2 days, the newsletter, because I have so much information I want to share with you. This is an American crisis. This is our national crisis. This is shocking. But you know what gave me hope? When this past weekend, I was in Philadelphia with some friends and family, and they said, let's go to the Betsy Ross house. And I said, sure, why not? We had some children with us. What gives me hope, warriors, is that first of all, you're watching this. And I want to thank you for that. I want to thank you for supporting the warriors. I want to thank you for tuning in. I want to thank you for sharing any of this information. Get on top of it with your kids, family members, and friends. Thank you, thank you, thank you. But what gives me hope is when I was in Philadelphia That's a tough city, everybody. Woo. As it got dark and I was walking some people to their hotel, I want to say it was 9 o'clock at night, not that late, and I was in a good area. The streets were rough. The streets are rough for our children. If they're rough for us, they're rough for our children. But at the Betsy Ross house, I saw families waiting online to get in with kids, and I heard them talking about the story of the American flag. And if you've been there, Warriors, it's a small house with a courtyard and a gift shop, of course. It's not very big with narrow stairs, and I overheard it just made my heart feel so full to hear parents with some young kids explaining. Now, whether you want to believe Betsy Ross and the story of the flag, that's another story. We're just going to leave that one. It was so good to see people out there lining up to get in, talking to their kids. I saw a group of, I want to say maybe they were in about 5th and 6th grade girls in the gift shop, and they all were buying Betsy Ross notebooks and pencils. Do you know how just beautiful to see that, to escape from all of this horror for just a couple of hours and see real people out there just enjoying on Saturday afternoon a little piece of history. Again, Warriors, whether you believe it or not, it still is something, you know. So I leave you with this. I leave you with, I cannot urge you enough, if you feel so inclined, and you should, pornography is inducing. We have a mental health crisis in the United States with our youth. We have 1 in 5 girls, some reports say 1 in 4, actively talking about suicide. Not just, I'm going to kill myself, actively trying or succeeding at it. We have about 25% of kids talking about suicide. When we talk about post-traumatic stress syndrome, usually we were always talking about people in combat, right? With vets and things. That's where we heard it. Now we're talking about it with our children. Where will this ever end? All being, fueled by the internet. But we have to remember, Warriors, let's leverage the internet for good, because it is here to stay, right? So we have to understand and educate ourselves about what's going on online and educate our children. And don't forget, there are a couple of great resources. You have protectyoungeyes.com, you have bark.us, bark.us, you have defendyoungminds.com, and now you have Dr. Valbert's book, Protecting Your Children from Internet Pornography, Understanding the Science, Risks, and Ways to Protect Your Kids. It just came out a couple of weeks ago. I want all of you to order it, because it comes from or buy it. It comes from a scientific, where you can really understand the brain, the dopamines, and all of this stuff going on. So with that, Warriors, I want to thank you again, each and every day. Remember, it's more important than ever. This is June 2022. Go out and be a warrior.